How I do private money lending for real estate. My name is Zach Pasquarello. I am a bookkeeping expert. I own a bookkeeping business. I just recently started doing private money lending for real estate acquisitions. I've done 12 deals in the past 14 months. 5 of them have closed, meaning the borrower has paid me back. 7 are still open and outstanding. Nothing wrong with the loans, they just haven't closed yet. I am a bookkeeping expert. I'm not a lending expert. I'm just sharing what I've learned so far. I make a lot of videos teaching people how to start their own bookkeeping business. And I love teaching people. I love making YouTube videos, and I love private money lending. So I figured I'd make a quick video teaching people what I know so far in my brief history about private money lending for real estate. First question, why would anyone want a private money loan? Because typically the interest rates are higher than what you would get at a regular bank. The reason is pretty simple. These people, these real estate investors, are buying properties to fix them and flip them, or to fix them and then hold them long term and rent them out. So they are trying to close quickly. Typically, these real estate investors find distressed properties or properties that are at an auction. A lot of these properties need to be sold in 30 or 60 days. And a lot of banks take too long to close on a mortgage. So they'll come to me. I've closed a loan in 48 hours. Typically, it takes me 7 to 14 days to close a loan, but no bank could ever do that. So these real estate investors need to close quickly. Also, I lend 100% loan to value. No bank will do that. Most banks will only do 80% loan to value, sometimes even less, 70 or 65% loan to value. And finally, real estate investors typically don't show a lot of income. So a lot of traditional banks will underwrite the borrower and look at their income. And if they have little to no income, it's hard for them to get a loan. So that's why anyone would ever want to go with a private money loan. It's supposed to be short term, 3 to 6 months. It's not a 2 to 5 year loan. It's just a short term loan so that somebody can fix and flip a property, or so that somebody can buy, rehab, rent, refinance. That's the idea. Okay, first thing, how do you get into private money lending? First, you need money. You need cash or access to cash. $50,000 is what I would recommend. It could be less, but as you get into lower loans, you start getting into riskier lending, riskier investments. I prefer to stick to traditional private money lending where I just do real estate acquisitions. I know some people will do transactional lending or like second position rehab lending or earnest money deposit lending. I try to stay away from that riskier stuff. I just do traditional, hey, I'm trying to buy this property. It's $50,000. I'm going to fix it up and flip it. I'll give you 50 grand to buy that property. Home equity line of credit, a cash loan, or even a self-directed IRA, or of course, just good old-fashioned cash. You need some type of money. A home equity line of credit could be used, and the thing about this is that your interest rate is going to be guaranteed. So as long as your home equity line of credit interest rate is less than the interest you would be receiving from your borrower, it could make sense. Same thing with a cash loan. If you get a loan from the SBA or just a regular unsecured cash loan from a bank, as long as that interest rate is less than what you're getting on your loans, it could be worth it. Self-directed IRA, I don't know much about that, but that's an awesome vehicle to do private money lending because you get all the benefits for the tax benefits of an IRA, but you can self-direct it into private money lending. So what is this compared to? Let me tell you what it's not compared to. It's not compared to the stock market because the stock market goes up and down. You might get 12% this year. You might get 20% this year, but you also might get negative 5% this year. So everybody knows the S&P 500 historically returns about 10 to 13% on average per year. So this, from a long-term perspective, private money lending, might not be that much better necessarily than just investing in the stock market. But it's a short-term play. You need to compare it not to the stock market, but instead compare private money lending to a bank CD. Imagine you go to the bank and get a 6-month certificate of deposit. The bank guarantees that they'll pay interest and give you your money back in 6 months. But the bank's only going to give you 5% if you're lucky. So a private money loan is also secured by an asset, the real estate. You get a mortgage and a first lien on the property. So you are essentially putting your money into a secured investment, a mortgage, and you are getting a guaranteed interest rate. And for me, I have 6-month terms on my loans. So if the borrower doesn't pay me back in 6 months, I add additional fees. But basically, you're going to put your money into a 6-month CD that's secured with a real estate acquisition, and you're going to get 12% or more annual interest, and then you're going to get your money back in 6 months, or they're going to pay additional interest. So it's not compared to the stock market because you can do close-ish to 12%, but it's compared to a bank CD because in 6 months, if you put $100,000 into the stock market right now, in 6 months, that might only be $90,000 or $95,000. Nobody knows what's going to happen to the stock market. But with a real estate private money loan, if you take $100,000 and put it into a 6-month note and mortgage, then you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to have $106,000 in 6 months because you're going to get 12% annual interest for 6 months, which is 6% over 6 months, which is $6,000. So you're almost guaranteed to not lose money in private money lending unless the property or the borrower defaults or forecloses, and we'll get to that in a second. But it's very secured because it's secured with real estate. Of course, no investment is ever guaranteed. There's no risk-free investment, but a lot of the risk can be mitigated by underwriting. That's the next step. Underwriting is the most important process of private money lending. You need to underwrite 2 things, the borrower and the property. So my background is in bookkeeping, taxes, finances. So I really understand balance sheet, profit and loss, bank statements, business history, W-2s, tax returns. Like I can really well underwrite the person. I don't have a ton of history as a real estate investor or in construction. So when it comes to underwriting the property, I'm still learning how to do that. But like I said, there's 2 things you have to underwrite. First, or not first, it could be first or second, but one of the things is the person. So like I said, I'll request your 2 most recent tax returns. I want to see 1, that you filed your taxes, and 2, that you at least have some type of income. Just in case this particular real estate acquisition fails, I need to see that you have some backup plan. And then also I want to see your balance sheet and your profit and loss. Mostly, I just want to see that you have updated and accurate bookkeeping because that tells me that you are a serious business owner. You're an organized business owner. If you're serious and organized, you're much more likely to do a good job on this real estate acquisition and fix it and flip it and pay me back. So I want to see your balance sheet. I want to see your profit and loss. I want to see your 2 most recent bank statements. I want to make sure you don't have a negative $1,000 in your bank account. I also want to look for any unusual withdrawals or deposits, something that could potentially look a little shady or a little fraudulent. And then I want to see your investment history. You as an individual or as a company, what is your investment history? Let me see your 2 most recent HUDs from your most recent acquisition and disposition or refinance. Let me see that you have purchased a property, used private money in the past, and been able to flip the property and pay back your lender. Or let me see that you did the Burr method and you were able to refinance and pay back your private money lender. Let me see your 2 most recent HUDs. And then let me look into your business history. If you are a business owner, let me look you up on Google My Business. Let me see if your business has any negative reviews. Let me look you up on LinkedIn, Facebook. Like, let me do a little bit of digging to see your history, your business history, to see if you have any bad reviews on Google or the Better Business Bureau. I'm going to do a little bit of investigating. I'm not looking to necessarily disqualify anyone for what they have on their personal Facebook. I'm just looking at it from a professional perspective. Like, what do they have going on in their business from a professional business perspective? And then finally, if they're not a business owner, a lot of real estate investors are just regular W-2 employees. So if you don't have a business, you don't have a P&L and a balance sheet, you might not have a business history. So let me see your W-2. I recently underwrote a loan for an executive at a company, and his W-2 income is $600,000 per year. I'm much more likely to lend to an executive who makes $500,000 per year versus somebody else who doesn't have a job and only makes $10,000 or $15,000 per year. So all of that stuff goes in. It's not an exact formula. I'm not a professional underwriter. I've only been doing this for 14 months. I've only done 12 deals. I'm only telling you what I've learned over the past 12, 18 months. And there's not an exact formula, but I try to get as much information as I possibly can. That way I can make the best decision possible. That way I can mitigate risk. Like I said, underwriting these deals is the most important part. It doesn't matter what interest rate I get. If you foreclose on the property, it's going to be an absolute nightmare for me. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So first, look at the person, and then I'm going to look at the property, because the actual property is what is going to secure my note and mortgage. So I want to look at the property. What is your renovation plan? Almost 100% of the time, these investors buy these properties with the intention of fixing them. So what is your plan? What's your budget for fixing them? Is it a realistic budget? I'm getting better at looking at renovation plans. It's not, once again, not an exact science, but let me see. How much do you have budgeted for flooring, for the water heater, for painting, for new cabinets, for renovating the bathroom? Does it make sense? If you have that you're going to put in a new water heater and it's going to cost you $500, that probably doesn't make sense. If you're going to paint the whole 2,000 square foot house for $200, that doesn't make sense. Let me see. Is the water heater going to cost $6,000? Flooring, $4,000. Painting, $3,000. Does it make sense? And is it going to be profitable? Like, if you buy a property for $100,000 and you plan on putting 50 into it and you can only sell it for 150, you're not going to be profitable. That's probably not a good deal. So what is your renovation plan? And then compare that to your ARV, your after rehab value. It's really hard to come up with good ARV calculations, but you can look at comps. Look at recent properties that were sold recently in the area, similar amenities, similar features, similar bedroom size, number of bedrooms, square footage, acreage of the property, garages. Look at comps and use the comps to calculate an ARV. The real estate investor should be doing this. As the lender, it's not my job to come up with a renovation plan and comps to calculate an ARV. They should have that information. So I request that. I say, send me your renovation plan. Send me the 3 comps you used to calculate your ARV. And then I'll look up the comps. I'll look up the property. I'll make sure it all makes sense. And then send me pictures of the property. If you can't do a walkthrough, if it's a local property, you can do a walkthrough, even better. But at least get pictures of the property. And what's your exit strategy? Do you plan on fixing and flipping? Do you plan on rehabbing, renting, and refinancing? If you're going to refinance, what is the seasoning period for your refi? Some banks won't refi before 6 months. Like, some banks require you to have a tenant in the property for a period of time before they will refinance your loan. So make sure you understand, as the lender and as the investor, what is the exit strategy? And then last thing, kind of a miscellaneous point, did they scope the septic? Did they look at the septic, especially if it's an old house? Did they look at the septic? Because that could be a $20,000 or $30,000 surprise. So always recommend scope the septic when you're buying an older property. Okay, so networking. Next point. How do you find these people? How do you get into private money lending, or how do you find private money lenders? Find real estate investors who need cash. It's pretty easy to find real estate investors who need cash because that's pretty much everybody. So that's not really the hard part. The hard part is finding people who need cash, who are serious about borrowing. So make sure you have a plan for collecting documents and vetting these potential investors, because you could have 100 people reach out to you and only one or two are really serious about buying their next property. So find real estate investors who need cash. The other thing you can do if you're a real estate investor is find people who want to lend cash. And you can do this by going to networking groups. There's a lot of real estate investor meetups. Myself, I actually help other people do private money lending. So if you want to learn more about it, reach out to me. My email and my phone number are all on my website, harrisburgbookkeeping.com. If you want to borrow money or if you want to learn how to lend money doing private money lending, reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it, teach you what I've learned so far, answer any of your questions. Closing. So you've done the underwriting process. Now we're at closing. There's a note, a mortgage, and a personal guarantee if the borrower is a company. If the borrower is an individual, you don't need a personal guarantee. There's a note and a mortgage and a personal guarantee. I have an attorney draft up these documents every single time, just so I can make sure everything's done properly, just for peace of mind. My attorney charges me $200 per deal, and I just pass that along to the borrower. That's really cheap. It's standard. A lot of people have a much higher legal fee. And then I charge 12%. 12% annual interest plus 2 or 3 points in the form of an origination fee. And then sometimes there's an underwriting fee. I've seen an underwriting fee of like a flat fee of $1,500. I've also seen a processing fee of $950. People do their fees a wide variety of ways, but mostly definitely annual interest, points, and then some other combination of fees. The 2 or 3 points, the origination fee, that's a percentage point. So if it's a $100,000 loan, I'm going to collect $2,000 or $3,000 upfront at closing. I only wire the money to the title agent. Never wire the money to the real estate investor directly. Only ever wire the money to the title agent. Very important. The docs are signed and notarized at closing with the title agent present. And then the title company files the mortgage at the office of the county clerk. And finally, you have a first lien position. So important. Make sure you have a first lien on the mortgage. First lien, not second lien, not third, first lien. If you don't know what that means, definitely make sure you talk to the title agent, talk to the real estate investor, make sure you have first lien. And then also you want to look at the title commitment. You want to make sure there's nothing weird on the title commitment. I don't really know a whole lot about the title commitment. My attorney is also a title agent. He's a real estate attorney and title agent. So he drafts my documents and he reviews every title commitment. Definitely recommend, if you don't know much about title insurance, get a title agent to review the title commitment before you close the deal. Okay, let's wrap up this video. What happens next? Monthly interest-only payments. So if I lend you $100,000, you're going to pay me $1,000 every month until you pay back the loan. And then when you pay back the loan, you'll pay me back my $100,000. I used to have people mail me checks, but that turned into a process. And sometimes people were late. So I do ACH origination. So I have it set up with my bank, just like your mortgage company probably has it set up. I have it set up with my bank where you give me your account number and routing number. I enter your information into my bank, and then my bank pulls your monthly payment every month on the first day of every month. You sign an agreement authorizing me to pull these funds. That way I'm not waiting on you to mail a check, and there's no late fees because it's always on time, first of every single month. Interest only payments. This loan is not amortized. There's no amortization. So you're not paying back interest and principal. It's interest only. And then at the end, you pay me back the full principal amount. Just like your personal mortgage, there are late fees. If received after 5 or 10 days, there's a late fee. Of course, there's always a late fee. And then finally, what happens if the borrower defaults? Foreclosure, just like any other property, any other bank. So private money lending, I am the bank in this example. Foreclosure, it's never happened to me yet. Like I said, I've only been doing this for 14 months. I've only done 12 deals. It hasn't happened yet, but for whatever reason, if the borrower defaulted on the loan, was not able to pay it back, I would foreclose on the property. And if I have first lien position, I get the property. So the idea is $100,000 loan, $100,000 property, they foreclose, I get the property after who knows how many months of whatever back and forth with my attorney. I get the property and then I sell the property for $100,000. And so I will theoretically get my money back after I go through the foreclosure process. So ideally, you never lose any money. Of course, nothing ever happens perfectly. It hasn't happened to me yet. The whole idea is that you underwrite the loan, or I underwrite the loan, so that I make sure the borrower and the property are not going to default. I don't have to go through foreclosure as long as I do my due diligence and do a good job of underwriting the loan. Hopefully this video was helpful, taught you a little bit about private money lending for real estate acquisitions. If you want to borrow from me, reach out, harrisburgbookkeeping.com. If you want to learn more about being a lender, if you've got $50,000 of cash and you want to learn more, I'd love to have a conversation with you and chat to see what happens next.